Gentlemen, you're watching Labour Matters right here on KBN TV, the finest television in Zambia. We are live on channel 279, that is DSTV 27, Go TV, Topstar 102, and live on our Facebook page, which is KBN TV. If you haven't liked our page yet, please do go on Facebook, search for KBN TV, and get to like our page. And please, just tell your friends and your neighbors that Labour Matters is live on KBN TV as we get to talk about issues to do with employers and employees. And I'm super excited today because we're looking at an interesting topic, and I wouldn't want any one of us to miss this conversation. So today we're looking at recruitment guide for SMEs, private companies and multinational corporations in Zambia. That is what we are looking at today. I am your host as usual, Patricia Chilambikwa, and in the studio I am with Mr. Owen Kabanda. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Patricia. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing very fine.
Amazing. To some of you who are watching Labour Matters for the very first time, Labour Matters, it is a KBN TV and Mr. Owen Kabanda's program, which comes every Sunday from 14 hours to the hour 15, as we get to interact and just talk about issues to do with employers and employees. So today, Mr. Kabanda, we're looking at an interesting topic.
Very much.
Amazing. So just your words to the viewers. I mean, I know a lot of us are eager to just learn what we are talking about today. Maybe if you can just take us through what we are talking about today.
Yes, so from the questions that have been coming in the background after the program that we did on starting up a company, in terms of the structures that need to be set up, the processes that you go through, the conditions of service, the salaries, and so on. One of the key things that has been coming out is people, especially our colleagues in the SME sector, saying they would also want to now know a little bit more about how to go about doing the recruitments after the company is set up. So we hope today we'll be able to answer the number of questions that have been coming for this specific topic.
Amazing. Yeah. Like you've just mentioned, in the last episode we did talk about setting up new companies and in the various HR areas of focus, like organization structure, salaries, and the conditions of services, among others. So if we can look at setting up an HR department and key document policies and so on for a company, which is very much important. But however, Mr. Kabanda, given the many requests that came in relation to recruitments, we would like to focus on recruitments in businesses for SMEs, private companies, and the multinational corporations starting business in Zambia. So to begin with, what is staff recruitment and why is it purpose in any business?
Yes, so these are things that even in the past we've talked about, but considering the requests that are coming, really, recruitment is simply put, it's a process through which an employer or a company can get people to join the company. And so really the purpose that it serves is really to make the employer have the people who can undertake the work, which then the company is then able to achieve its mandate. So it's a very important process in business. I know that sometimes people look at recruitment like something that you could just stand on the roadside and say, "Yeah, and you come and be my employee." But it's important that there is a lot of thought that is put in so that you really get the right people and not just getting anybody on the market.
Amazing. To our viewers, please, if you have any questions, comments, or contributions about our topic of discussion for today, use the number which is right on your TV screen. Just drop us a text message and we'll get to respond to all your queries. Now, Mr. Kabanda, according to the 2021 report on promoting SME competitiveness in Zambia, the Zambia Development Agency figures show that SMEs represent about 97% of all businesses in the country. I mean, contributing to 70% of gross domestic products and 88% of employment across the sectors. I mean, with that in mind, we know that SMEs are playing a crucial role in employment creation in the country. Now, we know that over the past 15 years, you have been dealing with mostly with big corporations and some SMEs in the country. So, Mr. Kabanda, if you can help us just understand what may motivate some SMEs to start hiring people in such a sector.
Yes, so for the SMEs, really normally you find that the person will start off, maybe they are just all by themselves, like we said before, and as the person is working, then they start to see a need to have additional people to work with them. Now, most of the times, what could lead to an SME to have additional people is really the demand on the business side. And that's why the first thing that we actually encourage our colleagues who are in business is that, first of all, understand your business. What is the nature of my business and what am I trying to do in my business? Because that on its own is very, very critical to inform the numbers of people that the person should be hiring. Sometimes you find that an SME just gets a contract, or maybe there's something that they need to supply, and all of a sudden someone thinks they have to hire so many people. Maybe it's not necessary, especially if that business is not going to be continuous. So you may have to look at other arrangements that have to be used in order to still get people to help you deliver on a certain project, or it is a certain function, and things like that. And so it's important that that entrepreneur understands what really is the nature of my business, then what are the demands like, what kind of work will require more employees, so that by the time they're really starting to hire more people, there are people that are going to add value, but also that business is sustainable enough to pay the salaries that will be coming with the employees that are going to be hired in that business.
Well explained, Mr. Khan. 15 years in the games is not a joke. It's not a joke at all. So you being a management and leadership advisor, what number and kind of people should an entrepreneur consider hiring?
Sometimes, like you said, there are people, as a business, you just start a business because the neighbor has so many people. You also say, no, I also want to be seen to have employed so many. The other group of entrepreneurs that we have, for instance, our colleagues who might have been in formal employment, you are working in this big company, there was a secretary, there is someone who prepares coffee, and the other one who just cleans the table, and you think that is the concept that you have to bring in the business, and all of a sudden you want to have so many people. Sometimes even with the terminal benefits, you might have come with your gratuity, and also, so you don't feel actually the pinch at the beginning. But that is not the way to employ people in the business. So what we are saying is, first of all, sit down and look at the business and ask yourself, what kind of people how many people do I actually need? Then, when the question you asked about the kind of people, if you are an entrepreneur, you are alone, we always advise the entrepreneurs to sit down and ask themselves, what kind of skills do I have? If you are very good with marketing, for instance, then you want to have a person that works with you, for instance, on finances, operations, and so on. If you are very good with the numbers, you are a person who wants to be in the office, then you need someone who can do your sales and marketing for you, because you can have a very good machine, a very good business, but if it is not known by other people, definitely the customers are not coming. So we always advise, when it comes to small and medium enterprises, before your company grows, look at the skills set that you have and try to find people who can actually complement your skills, so that the people that you're hiring are basically coming to add more value. If you're an HR person and you're setting up your HR business, as an example, as a consultant, and you want to hire so many other HR consultants, maybe it will be a challenge, because you need people who can actually advertise your business and make sure that you're bringing the customers. So at the end of the day, as the numbers and the kind that you need would also work around the nature of the business you're doing at that point. If you are now going to deliver a service or a certain product and you require a certain number, you sit down again and calculate how many of these people will have, how much would I spend on this, and then how much money will I make out of this after you take out all the expenses. So the aspect of recruiting as an SME or as a new business owner, it is important that you calculate your costs around labor, so that you know really when you should even be bringing those people in the company. Well
explained, Mr. Khan. Now, before we talk about recruitments in big corporations, but first, if we can talk about SMEs who have been asking questions about you and your contacts for help, because mostly we usually get questions like, how can I get in touch with Mr. Kabanda? Can you please help us us with his contact number. Should an SME just recruit anyone that they know, like a friend or family or maybe relatives? Because, okay, I know Patricia, and there's this opportunity. Can I just inform her about it, in as much as maybe she might not even have that qualification? Your take about this?
Yeah, so this is usually a contentious question around what kind of, can someone hire a relative, a friend? When you're an SME, you really are starting off your business and probably you don't have so much money. So in some circumstances, yes, sometimes in entrepreneurs who hire families and relatives to work with them. There are advantages to that. Usually there's some understanding that this family member will understand the financial situation of this entrepreneur. And so even when the person is not being paid all the monies that need to be paid, the entrepreneur and the person they're working with, this relative, there is that kind of understanding. Now, that in itself is a good thing if you're looking at just reducing your costs at the beginning. But what we also emphasize to entrepreneurs is that when the person is starting to work with you, whether the person is your niece, your nephew, the issue is that at that point, the relationship that you have with them will now change to employment relationship. Now, when we are talking about employment relationship, what we are saying basically is that you become the employer and they become employees, which means then that now if there's that relationship, you have to now consider what are the implications, the legal implications of this employment relationship. And one of those is really even on the salaries. So how much should you be paying this person? So while on one end it will be seen that hiring a friend or a relative in a business is a good thing, it also has implications, especially at the time you are separating. When they are working with you, probably there's not much of an issue. But sometimes when people are leaving, that's when now they will make claims, then all of a sudden you say, no, but I thought we are working together. So hiring friends and relatives is not a bad thing. On the other end, the challenge and the risks that come with that kind of arrangement is that when you have your friends and relatives, like we've said time and again, sometimes there is a challenge in managing them because there is another relationship with them. So whereas you may want to, if they have done something wrong, you may want to say something, you probably not say it. Also, sometimes it's about the certain behaviors, the time they will come, because sometimes they take it that this is a family thing. It's my uncle, it's my sister, it's my wife, it's my husband. So the person comes whichever time they want to come. So like we've said over and over, it is important that if you are going to hire them, the relatives and friends in your business as an SME, you make sure that things are very clear. You sit down with them, make it clear that this is employment, who is reporting to who, what are the behaviors that you expect from them, as well as what are the things that you as employer are going to do for them, so that then you minimize the risk that come with working with relatives. Sometimes, like I've said, productivity gets to be really affected unless you really have a team and family members who actually believe in what you're trying to do as an SME.
Amazing. Now, you being an employment expert, Mr. Kabanda, I mean, you have been working in various business in Zambia. What kind of an advice would you give, I mean, the process that an SME can follow to recruit people? Because this is vital. We might be talking about it and people just maybe try to take it lightly, like it's just a thing, it's just a conversation they're having, but these things are happening. So to someone, I mean, an SME who is maybe starting up a business, what advice can you give that person, I mean, to follow when it comes to recruiting people?
Yeah, so when it comes to recruitment, if you're an SME, the usual thing we see really is, I'm opening a shop, so I've seen what somebody is not working. Okay, you come through, you start working. But the challenge that and the reason we really talk about these things and the advice we give to the SMEs is that in as much as you may want to simplify the processes, it is important that even at that level, even if you're a small business, you're just doing, maybe you are doing supply or you have your shop or you are doing functions, whatever it is that you're now starting to do, please try to formalize things a little bit, because when you just get someone, come, and many times what happens is just, okay, so I can only pay you this much. Agreed, and the person starts. But what we are saying is that try to put in place some processes. If you cannot get someone who can help you, there are consultants who can help you. Basically, even have small interviews. We're calling them small interviews. At least try to understand the ambitions of that person, even if they are your friends or your relative or whatever it is. What is it that they really want? And how can you actually work with them? There has to be some form of interaction and not just saying, come, have a shop here, start. Talk to them so that you really understand if this is the person you really want to work with. Because once the person starts, it becomes difficult also to separate. So have some interviews. If you can, once you have discussed with this person, you understand what their ambitions, also if they align with what you're trying to do as a business, then discuss the salaries. Again, the salaries, how much are you going to pay and at what point, at what intervals. Again, discuss those things. We normally advise that put everything also even in writing, because it's very easy. We see in small businesses sometimes people would work for long hours because there's some understanding. But again, consult. Have someone help you to set up how can you actually work with this person within this kind of hours, what is legally allowable. So that process of hiring the person and also what you end up agreeing, it becomes very, very important. On top of that, when this person has joined you, like we've said, please make sure in the process you do some onboarding. Now you as a business owner, you are the one who know what you really want. It can be you can be a shop, like we have said. It could be a mobile money arrangement. It could be you are supplying, you're doing whatever it is. Talk to the person. There has to be, so from the interview, you agree, you negotiate your salaries, you agree. Do some induction, even at that small level. Why we are emphasizing these things is because if you don't make this person understand what you are trying to do, it is only you who know what you really want to achieve. So if you just tell them, oh, just do this, you need to help them understand what it is that you're trying to achieve, what is your goal, and how you are expecting everybody. Because as an SME, as an entrepreneur, entrepreneurs have a lot of ideas. They have the way they want to make sure that the customer is happy. But that needs to be communicated to this person that now we are working with. So it's very, very important that there is some level of formalizing the business. There's some level of training for the person that are going to work with, so that then those people could then understand what you're trying to achieve as a business. It's very, very, very important. That much we really cannot overemphasize.
So from what you're saying, Ms. Dakande, you're trying to tell us that it is not okay for an entrepreneur to just call someone and just tell them like, okay, there's this job and your salary is A, B, C, D, and you start work on this particular day. There's a lot is supposed to go on in the background. And but again, I'm still thinking, going back to a situation where you want to hire someone who is your relative or friend. Mr. Kand, I'm thinking it's a little bit hard, because in as much as I want to conduct this interview and I want to get to tell this person what you'll be working on is A, B, C, D, and I want you to do A, B, C, D. But again, in my mind, I know this person is my relative. Don't you think it's a little bit hard to maybe for me to get to conduct that interview? Is it not possible, or is, how can it supposed to be done? I'm trying to understand. Or maybe is it okay if I can involve someone else to do that interview and not me? Because I would jeopardize my business if I get to have that conversation with my friend.
Yeah, it really, yes. It's, maybe if we even use the term interview, it looks too big. We could even turn it down to say a talk. But the issue here is
a talk is still an interview. What
we're emphasizing is that, even look at it this way: you have so many relatives, and a lot of them, you may find that they actually need a job. Okay, and so the fact that you know Paul or Jane, and they are the first people that come to your mind, or maybe they are the ones who are near you, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're the only ones you can hire. What we are talking about is really looking at the business. Because you even know that some of the relatives, they have certain behaviors. Maybe someone is your uncle, but you know the guy just drinks.
Exactly.
This other one, you know, when he's high, you'll be insulting everyone. So, in as much as they are your close relative, we need to reach a level where we have to start differentiating between family and business. family is family. We always love our family members. But then you have to now think twice and look at, this is a business. And if you want to really succeed with a business, it's not just a matter of, you're not creating a business so that you can save everybody in the family. That's not the point. You will support the family, but find a way that the business grows. Because just by getting the wrong person, whether a relative or not being related to that person, the business can actually end up dying. So yes, at some point you have to start now understanding that this is a business I'm going into, and you need to be also comfortable with having hard conversations. It's not easy, but you have to make things, because this is business. So start being comfortable. And like you said, if you're in a space where you really think, I may have a challenge, call somebody. There are consultants or friends or colleagues that can come there and just say, have a chat. If there are certain things you have even observed, see it, even give them probation periods, even if they are your relatives. And if the person can't work, you can even say, no, Mwana, my niece, my nephew, uncle, I think it appears we are having a challenge. Now it's a difficult thing. And that's why we are saying sometimes, if you know that you don't have the stamina and the muscle to talk to people like that, especially relatives, find someone independent who come and have a chat with them. Because at the end of the day, especially if you have a consultant who comes in, they are not concerned so much about all these relationships. They are looking at how can the business actually grow? How can we have the right person in this business so that this business can then grow? Because like we've said, time and again, after you do that recruitment, also do inductions. People need to know what is expected of them. Even if it is a small family business, people need to know what is expected of them. And if you want even to, because I understand there are a lot of these stakeholder issues. Because you are related, this is your sister, and sometimes you kept someone, or there are all these intricacies with the family. Sometimes you also explain to the family. Have a chat with them. Oh no, I have now gotten my nephew to be with me, but we want to, if things work out, it work out. If it doesn't, they need to also know, because sometimes the pressure comes from the family, where they're starting to look at you like you're the bad person. But really help yourself and help the family to see what you're trying to achieve. But also, most importantly, the people that you're going to work with as an entrepreneur, they need to know what is it that they need to do. And what is it that will happen if they are not doing what they are expected to do.
Amazing. Well explained to our viewers. Please, if you have any questions, comments, or contributions about our topic of discussion for today, use the number which is right on your TV screen, and we get to read all the text messages right here. You can also go on our Facebook page, which is KBN TV. Drop us a comment. Tell us what is your take about our topic of discussion. You don't always have to, send questions. Okay, I'm going to ABCD from a company and whatnot. If you just have a comment about our topic of discussion, please just drop us a comment on our Facebook page. Now, Mr. Kabanda, we have talked about planning and budgeting, but as you know, in some of these SMEs businesses, the recruited employees are not being paid their right salaries. I know some of the viewers right now are happy that we're now talking about salaries, because we've been receiving a number of questions about salaries. So we're about to talk about it right now. Now, just giving you an example, according to the statutory instrument number 48 over 2023, the government puts the minimum gross pay, about 2,000 kwacha for a general worker, 3,000 kwacha for a driver, and about 3,000 kwacha again for a receptionist. And let's talk about the 4,000 kwacha for a qualified clerk. But some businesses, Mr. Kabanda, let me just even slow down so that the viewers can understand. So I don't want to receive a number of questions and concerns again. So I just want to slow down and make us understand all this. So let's talk about some businesses which are not paying such salaries. What should such businesses do, and how can consultants like you, Mr. Kabanda, like you yourself, help in such a situation? Because a number of people have been complaining, in as much as, government had put a gross pay about salaries, but they're still getting low compared to what government had put in place. So just your take, you as a consultant, what is happening and what is supposed to be done?
All right, so this issue has been burning and burning and burning. So
from the year from 2023,
yes.
we're talking about it.
So look, there have been changes over time around the salaries that people need to pay to get paid, and we are now where we are here. Of course, like you said, the government has issued the SI number 48. Now, it is important for SMEs, because now we're talking about SMEs and these challenges around salaries, as well as even just some big companies. When we talk about recruitment and employees, we have to understand that there's a compliance issue that comes. Now, this is where now cost versus compliance. People want to make sure that they maintain some cost low in terms of labor costs, but sometimes that could be a challenge now on complying with the law. Now, what should happen is the employer, in this case, the SME, or it could be a big company, they need to now sit down and look at, okay, what does the law now say? If you are talking of a general worker, and like you said, the general worker needs to maybe get 2,313 kwacha and teningwe in terms of gross pay. What is the composition of this same amount? In that same amount, there is basic pay, there is housing, transport, and lunch. Then you now have to figure out and ask yourself, what is it that I can actually do? This is where now, where an SME or a company is having challenges, they could get consultants to help them. What happens is that you work out your salary structure. In the salary structure that you're paying, you now have the different number of people and the levels that you're talking about. Last time we were talking about job grades, and we're saying you put people in different grades. And this is what even your SI stipulates. It has grades for those protected workers. Now the question is, what should you be offering? Definitely you have to offer what is in line with the law. Now, if you are going when you set the salary, there are calculations that you can do. That same salary is equivalent to the number of days worked, for instance, in a month. So if, for instance, the people work for 26 days in a month, or 24, 22, you come up with the daily rate. Now, do you need these people every day? Those are things that now you start to look at, how can you actually now manage the costs? If you don't need the people every day, then you work out it like that. Do you need the person working all the 8 hours, or the business that you have doesn't really require all the hours of work? Now, do you need to actually have 3, 4, 5 people, or 10 people, or actually you can have? So there is a lot of work that you then have to do to ensure that at least you are compliant with the law. The key issue is, let's make sure that the businesses start to be compliant. Again, if you are working in a particular business where the employer has not complied with those provisions, again, people are free to go to labor office and then discuss. Now, we also have to emphasize, because of the nature of the breakdown of the salary, sometimes employees say that they get less because, for instance, the employer is providing transport, some employers provide lunch, so you may find that gross that you were talking about is not the amount the person is getting, because the employer has now taken out maybe the cost of transport and lunch. So the amount maybe the person will be getting is just basic and housing. Sometimes the employer even provides housing. So again, in calculation, maybe you end up just with a basic. So again, you have to look. This is why we emphasize to employees, and we have said this in the past, when you get the offer, start reading that offer, the contract, line by line. When you reach the part of the salary, again, understand what this salary is all about. Does it have the basic? Does it have all these other allowances? And what would happen if the employer provides those things? So it's very, very important that employees understand those things, but also the employers understand those things. And if there is an issue, either if the employer is having a challenge, the employer could actually, contact the consultants who could help them, or actually go to labor office. That's why they're there. Employees is the same. They could go to labor office. I feel like
people are scared to visit the labor office.
I know that one of the things that even the employees concern is that maybe if we go to labor office, then the employer will try to find who went to labor office and end up firing us. We know those challenges. But what we're saying is there's also a way that the officers will find to make sure that your employer becomes compliant. Really, what is key, what we're emphasizing to even the businesses is work out salaries that are within what the law provides, depending on the category of the employee. As long as that person will be categorized as such, according to those grades that we have in the statutory instrument number 48 of 2023, then you have to apply and pay those same salaries.
I'm sure we've all now understood the whole process. If you feel like someone is not giving you what you're supposed to be getting, please do visit the labor offices like Mr. Kabanda has just told us. Don't be scared, just visit the office.
Of course.
Thank you, Mr. Kabanda, for explaining. But if you still have questions about the same, I know there is someone right now still has more questions. Please use the number to write on your TV screen and we'll get to respond. We won't get tired. We'll respond to all the questions. Now, Mr. Kabanda, if for those who need step-by-step help, please get in touch. What am I saying? For those that need step-by-step, I mean, kind of guidance, how can they get in touch with you? I mean, you didn't respond to a particular question I had asked you at first, because we've been receiving quite a number of SMSs, people asking on how they can get in touch with you, and if they need help, is there a process supposed to follow for them just to have a chat with you? Maybe this is the time where you can now tell them how to go on to find Mr. Kabanda and which steps you're supposed to take. I mean, if there's a contact number you're supposed to give them, because people are still asking, they want to learn more. And I believe they're learning, but they still want to get more knowledge from you. Mr. Kabanda, 15 years is not a joke of being in this business.
I appreciate it. Yeah, so really, for people who want to get in touch, there are a lot of contacts. Just go online. My contacts are there on LinkedIn, contacts are there on YouTube, contacts are there on TikTok. And basically even on Facebook. So just Google Owen Kabanda and they should be able to find the contacts. But again, like we've said, if it's an issue that needs just labor office, especially for the employees, just go to
thank God you just told them where to find you. I don't want to receive any question and asking me where am I supposed to find Mr. Kabanda, contact number. Please, he's given you all the details where to find him. Now, if we can now talk about the issue of recruitment in big corporations, Mr. Kabanda, what are the key steps even before you go into the details of each processes? Maybe if you can just take us through this recruitment process.
Okay, yeah, really I know always SME sector is always a challenge, but but for their colleagues in the working in big corporations and multinationals, really the processes are very simple, and it's just important that especially the HR colleagues understand what is supposed to be there. Really the first part is determining the need for hiring. Secondly, you then go to now look at where you're going to really get these people. You also work out the job description and just make sure that everything is clear. From there, you can then advertise, depending again, I'm talking about advertising and going, you can look at what ways are you going to use to actually attract. Sometimes you could do headhunting, sometimes you use consultants, it depends. Then you do the screening, because usually you are receiving a lot of applications. So you do your screening and shortlisting to reduce the numbers. Thereafter, you can then do some companies, they also even do aptitude tests and psychometric assessments to reduce the number, or other companies, they do practical tests, depending again on what the company has put in place. Beyond that, you then can do your final interviews and select then the candidate that you think is the right candidate for you, and then you do the job offers. That's where now you're doing your negotiations until you agree on what the person agrees to take. After that, person reports, and you can now do your onboarding. You do the inductions just to make sure that the employee understands what is required of them.
Now, I'm now thinking, you being an employment expert, Mr. Kabanda, what would you say might be the importance of planning before you hire in big corporations and in multinational corporations?
So for the big corporations, really what is needed is, like you said, planning becomes extremely important. Planning means that you're now looking at what does this company need in terms of human resource. And we're saying these things to especially colleagues in HR, because sometimes you find that when you are in a big company, someone will just come, okay, now we need more people. Okay, where did this need come from? And sometimes you find people even come, okay, I have a list from my department or from my section, we need to hire more people. So there has to be some level of planning in the company, so that you now make sure that in this year, first of all, what do we need? Who do we need? What positions do we need? But all these things have to be tied to the business goals for the year. So as a company, you now need to look at what is our strategic direction? Where are we going this year? And that, we've said this before, you sit down as a HR and start now looking at this direction where the company is going. For instance, if you're in the mines, you're saying we're going to do our production like this, or you're in a factory, we're going to do our production like this, or we're in a service industry, we are going to target to save people like this and to make such kind of monies. You're now saying how many people do we need, and what are the kind of people that we need. So these things, like we've said before, it becomes extremely important because you want to make sure that your recruitment is not all over the place. Sometimes because you don't plan for the people that you need to hire, you again end up hiring more people than you need. And what that means now is that people are just really coming and doing very little, and yet you are paying so much, which then means it is affecting your profitability. Sometimes you have very few people, again, because you didn't plan, and those few people that you have end up being very stressed. So either way, it is important that you plan and you work out the optimal numbers. So in the planning process, what is there really is to look, like I said, at where the company is going for that particular year, what are the targets that they want to achieve. Then you now work out the number of people that will be needed, and then when will those people actually be needed. When you plan, it also means that those things go through an approval process, so that then it makes it easier, especially for HR, because sometimes you'll be saying, no, we can't recruit, but based on what? If you have the project manager coming and saying, I need these people, you cannot argue with them, because you're arguing with them on what basis? They are telling you this is what we need. And that's why if you're an HR person in a particular company, it's also important that you discuss with the management, so that you have some numbers to work with. There are also situations where, because you didn't plan, you find people are being recruited, and some are being put on the payroll without the knowledge of top management. Or sometimes you find that people are being recruited and they are not put on the payroll again, which then brings a lot of problems, where you have people now saying, look, I worked for 2 months, I've not yet been paid, what's going on? Because someone did not plan properly. So it's really, really important that planning is done. It's not an easy thing, especially I know I've received a lot of calls from colleagues who are maybe fresh in the industry, but it has to be done.
I'm not thinking, Mr. Kande, is it really necessary to maybe define or maybe state the positions, responsibilities in a job adverts?
Yeah.
Is it really important?
Well, it's extremely important. When you, apart from that planning that you're doing, when you now say we now need to recruit, you have to make sure that, first of all, the job description itself exists. What is this person going to be doing? Okay? This situation that we see a lot of times, no, I just need some people. Some people doing what? So and sometimes you have maybe a branch manager or a project manager, and they're just saying, I just need some people. I just need additional. No. So as HR, you have to really then sit down with them and exactly understand what will be the role of this person and what will be the qualifications that will be required for this person. And then what could be the number of years of experience required. And why this is important is because when you're going to start a recruitment, it helps you to actually find somebody who matches this job description. I know that in some companies they say, okay, this is a process you start creating, but normally what we advise is that at the very time that you are creating the job, the organization structure, like we were talking about in the last episode, you now need to also make sure that you create job descriptions at that point. So if you are in a company, in these big companies where job descriptions already exist, you still need to just now look at the job description and see if there's anything that needs to be updated, because you may have had the organization structure maybe approved maybe 1 or 2 years ago. So maybe the job has evolved a little bit. So that's why it's important to really have the job description set. And when it will be time even for you to come and advertise, it also helps the candidates, the applicants, to see, okay, do the things that I've done, do they match with the job that has been advertised? Rather than you just advertising a title, we're looking for HR officer. What is this person doing? We are looking for a journalist. What are they doing? Because even within that sector, you can be a journalist who's focusing on business. Maybe someone has to be in the field, another person have to. So it is important that you really go to the extent of making sure that the job description is clear so that you help the people who are applying. It will also come and help you at the time you'll be doing your screening and shortlisting so that you're matching the people with the right qualifications and experience for the role.
Now, in a situation where the job description is clear, but you get to do extra things. Maybe that's the situation where they just say, I want people, I want people, without describing what you're going to be doing. I just want people so that can be doing,
multiple things.
Yes.
Where the people say that I have a job description, but that line which says shall undertake any other duties has even become the biggest job than everything.
Now, Mr. Kabanda, after all the internal approvals, how can human resource or even consultants like you go about attracting people in a big corporation and maybe ensure giving an opportunity to all? Further, is it really necessary again to recruit people from one region only?
Those are very, very sensitive matters.
Yes.
Yeah, so really when, like you've said, one of the things that has to happen, especially in a big company, forget about where we're talking about very small companies where it is one-man show and when you woke up and you believe you have to hire somebody. When you are in a big company, and we are hoping colleagues, the HR practitioners actually have put in place the recruitment policies and so on, it's important that you have clear recruitment processes and those should actually be approved. And what that then means is that when that need to hire was established, you worked out and cleaned the job description and everything, you also now need to make sure that that is approved. What that means is that you have to go through the approval process. I don't know if it is a general manager who approves or whoever it is that you have in your company who approves. That is important to ensure that the numbers of people that you're having per position is actually in line with what was previously approved. So once you have these approvals, you also then you're looking at how are you going to go about doing the recruitment. If you, like you said, it's an internal HR process, are you going to go out? Are you going to hire people internally? Or are you going to go outside? Or are you also going to use maybe a consultant? There are companies that are doing recruitment. So it is important that at this point there is clear understanding of what process will be followed, because that then affects how you are going to go forward. When it is approved, you can then do your adverts. When you advertise, you receive your applications and so on. So that one is when you are going to go outside. About the other aspect of should you only recruit people from one region, well, really, it is not necessarily the case. The issue is when you are making that plan to recruit, and again, this is what we emphasize, especially to our colleagues in HR, you need to first of all understand when this company was being set up in your area or in that particular area where you're going to operate. First of all, if it is a multinational corporation, sometimes when companies are coming into the country, there are certain agreements that are made. So you need to understand what agreements could actually be there in terms of how this company is going to recruit and if it is going to use expatriates or the local people. So there has to be clear understanding of these agreements if they exist. Then within the country, you're looking now at these companies where you're going to work in a particular location. Sometimes as part of stakeholder management, a company can also have some agreements or discussions with maybe the local leadership, the chiefs and also on. So again, in such kind of situations, again, this is a challenge because these are not things that you'll be taught in school, and which is what stresses HR practitioners a lot, because when you're on the ground, then you find a lot of different things that you never saw in a book. Yeah, so in the place where you work, maybe it's a mine or it's a construction company or whatever, it's a factory, you may have some agreements with the local leadership. Now, those things need to be very clear, and that's why we tell HR to also be involved in understanding what agreements could have been there. But normally, you want to give an opportunity to the local people to be employed, but they need to have what you're looking for, and that's why when you are now making that plan to recruit, that's why we say understand what could be prevailing, what could be happening, so that if you are going to, sometimes if it's, let's say if it's non-technical jobs, the general workers and whatever, if they, in that place, the people are available to do this kind of job, just advertise locally and you get them. But if it's a job where you require people who come from other places, definitely you have to advertise even in the print media, online and so on, to get those people to come. Again, I have to emphasize, and just to help a number of HR practitioners have been calling around this issue, you also need to understand how to engage the local leaderships, because sometimes that's where problems start. They need to understand, you first of all need to understand what their concerns are about the issues of employment, but you also need to help them to understand how your company's policies will apply in recruitment. So there's that engagement, so that at the end of the day, when you're doing your recruitment, you can do things professionally. Otherwise, you may find a situation where you're being given lists, and they tell you this is the list that we can accept here, and then that goes against your own internal policies. So it's very, very important that this aspect is well managed, so that by the end of the day, you have people you recruit who have the right skills, they're qualified, they're experienced, and they help the company to achieve its goals. And if you're going to hire some people who might not have the necessary skills, then you should also be very clear about the program to help them to build the skills in terms of skills training for them to also come to a certain level of productivity.
Mr. Kabanda, if you can also maybe talk about the issue of staff secondments in big corporations and multinational corporations. What does that really mean as a recruitment issue?
So secondment really in these companies, especially big companies, happens where if, for instance, we are within a group, or you have a multinational and it has branches in different countries. Sometimes an employee from one country can be sent to another country. If it is within the country, like here in Zambia, you can still have one employee being sent to another branch or another company within the same group of companies. So that secondment does happen, but what that does is that this employee will remain an employee of the company that is sending them. So those arrangements which are then made where the employer who is now using the other company who is using their services will pay the other employer. So there are all these arrangements that are done. Usually that is just used for skills transfer or to fill a particular gap. So secondment, again, this is an issue that for HR practitioners, some of the colleagues have been asking about that. It's just important to understand the policies around secondment so that you really know what applies. If a certain employee comes from Malawi or Zimbabwe or South Africa, what would apply? Are you still paying them that side, or should you actually now terminate where they're coming from and employ them here in the country? And if they're going to be employed in the country, what then does this do? So there are group policies, especially with multinational companies, which you have to really spend time reading, and in terms of how that company, as a group of companies, want to operate, especially if it is operating in different countries. Sometimes some companies also even operate across different continents, and they send people across different continents. So it's important to understand those things.
Well explained, Mr. Van, and I believe our viewers right there have really enjoyed this conversation. But let's talk about the issue of cooperation. If a corporation went the route of advertising, how should the screening and shortlisting process be? Because there's a lot going on, and I'm wondering as well, I know someone else out there is also wondering, if you can also maybe just take us through, how can they make sure that this process is well coordinated?
Yeah, so if the company did not hire people internally and they advertised, for instance, and then you have received applications. Sometimes you are in a situation where you have 1,000, 7,000 applications, or so many applications, 5,000 applications. The issue is that it goes back to what we are talking about, being very clear from the beginning in terms of the planning. What were the qualifications, the skills required, and all those parameters you should have already outlined what you will then use. This is why planning becomes important, because you have to know where you're going, to know that when we reach the stage of screening and shortlisting, we will actually use the following things. And that's why we tell HR practitioners, no matter the pressure you receive, first think everything through, because sometimes they tell you, we need this person, now, advertise. And you start jumping, you're advertising. Now when you receive so many applications, you're now confused. This is what sometimes breeds even insinuations of corruption, where people, they don't know how they were dropped along the way. And that's why we say, make things extremely clear, where you know that if this person was not hired, it's because they don't meet this and this and this parameter. So when the adverts have been run and the applications are received, there will normally be a committee. Sometimes if it is a system, based, depending again on what you are using. This is why we talked about planning. Some screening is done by the system, where the system itself will drop out people who don't qualify. And like we use some systems that allow us just click of the button, 1,000 people gone, 2,000 people gone, because they have not met those qualifications. There's no much human intervention. Sometimes you can use committees. The committees will look at those things and then reduce the number of staff. Sometimes companies also use aptitude tests and psychometric assessments to further reduce the numbers of people. So again, it depends on what the business wants to do. In other companies, depending, maybe like I keep on talking about factories and mines and construction, they will give you the actual machine. And they say, show us if you can actually operate it. In the area of ICT, it's the same thing. Sometimes they give you to do practical tests. So once the number has been reduced, then those are the people that can actually proceed to the final interviews.
So after shortlisting, Mr. Kanda, I'm now thinking, what is the interviewing process is supposed to be? How is it supposed to be like? You've done the shortlisting, it's now time for interviews. How is it supposed to be done?
So on the interview side, it's really now just making sure that the people that have finally reached that stage, you can now really drill into the person themselves. Now, if you had used a consultant, again, they will help you with the interviews. If you are doing the recruitments internally yourselves as HR and the heads of the section, you then just interview the person. You have a panel. The panel, like we've been mentioning on this platform, they need to be trained. The challenge that we have is always where a situation where you just have people, they come and start interviewing. You make sure that they are trained, you train them, they understand what you're looking for. Then once the questions have been set, the interviewing panel will be asking those people to make sure that they then do an evaluation of the candidates to then get the people that meet. Again, you're matching the requirements of this job to the best profile. That means, who is this person in front of you? How they presented themselves? How do you see them fitting into your company? And how do you see them performing? So those things become very, very important. If
maybe you can also talk about job offers for employees in Zambia, and because of time, you can also talk about what about the onboarding process for new employees in a company before we read some of the text messages which we've received from our viewers.
Yeah, so once the interviews have been done, you then start the job offer. For the colleagues who are within the country, it's very easy in these big corporations. It's you offer the person, and some of the offers, they come as conditional offers. So the person will have to be able to meet certain standards, maybe in the certain medicals, or police clearances or reference checks. So those things are done, and the person will go through. Once they accept the offer, you can then agree that they provide all those things that are required. For colleagues that are coming from out of the country, the expatriates, again, you have to make sure that you make sure you get the necessary work permits for them. What happens sometimes, you find that you are rushing, you keep somebody who's not supposed to be in the country. Now that's an offense. So HR has to ensure that they are keeping track of who comes to work, and that person who's not Zambian, they actually get the work permit. Because remember, by law, we are supposed to demonstrate that within the country there's nobody who could do this job, and hence you need this expatriate. And usually then you have to also make sure that you're going to attach someone to be trained. So from the HR perspective, it's extremely important that all these things are done within the confines of the law.
Amazing. Thank you very much. We can read some of the text messages from our viewers. Just a reminder,
I hope it's not about the salaries.
No. I just want to put an emphasis to our viewers. Please, Mr. Kabanda is a management and leadership advisor. Please, he's not from the labor offices and whatnot. No. So let me just read this first message, because someone thinks you're from the labor offices.
No.
Oh my God. Okay. So this one reads, what's the minimum wage for people in hotel industry in Livingstone, and why are your officers not going around in Livingstone to see the companies that are not following the process? For example, Livingstone, why are you scared?
I believe that we will send that message to labor office, and they should be able to take care of those things.
Amazing. Someone just thought you are from the labor offices.
No.
Good day. Enjoying the program. Is allowance taxable?
Yes, allowances are taxable under the income taxes laws. So every allowance that you receive, unless that payment you get is not is excluded. So just check again with the ZRA practice note.
Amazing. This one reads, how do you register as an SME and what are the qualifications?
As an SME, basically just visit the PACRA office near you. You can also just check online. There are people that could actually assist you, but PACRA is not complicated. You register your business name or a limited company and you're good to go.
Amazing. This one reads, good afternoon. I have a question to ask. There is a company which is that they don't pay workers graduate, I think that's what this person wanted to write, at the end of the contract. Since the time they started operating here, we have tried to talk to them about nothing has been done, even after going to labor office nearby. Thank you.
Yeah, we would have appreciated even more if we had been told what exactly labor said. However, it's important to understand that an employee who has a grievance against the employer, current or former employer, they have the right to actually go to court.
The last one, maybe. How many hours is a subject teacher supposed to work in a day who reports at 07 in the morning every day?
So again, go to the employment code and understand on the hours of work. An employee is supposed to work for 8 hours, but again, depending on the arrangements that have been made in a particular business, where a person works for a certain number of hours or over the normal hours, there is also a provision as long as the person does not work over and above the 48 hours in a week. So we cannot really comment because we don't know the contracts and we don't know what time they start, they stop, the breaks that they have. There are all those details that we need to actually see whether that person is working in line with the laws or not.
No, thank you very much, Mr. Kabanda, for responding to quite a number of text messages which we've received today. But to our viewers, please do continue sending in those text messages. But if you can just give us your last remarks as we get to wrap up this conversation. I don't know, how come it's already 15 hours?
That's the thing. Time flies. Otherwise, from my side, it's really just to appreciate all of you that have been following us and all the encouragements you keep on giving us and the text messages. And when you share our content, we also greatly appreciate. We can only wish you the very best in your jobs and in your businesses.
Amazing, just like that.
Just like
Thank
that.
you very much for watching Labor Matters right here on KBN TV, the finest television, and I hope you really enjoyed this particular program. Let's keep the conversation going by joining us on our Facebook page, which is KBN TV, and get to, drop those comments, questions, contributions about our topic of discussion. If you've just joined us, please, our Facebook page is right there. The conversation is going, just check on it and watch this particular program. And today we're looking at an interesting topic, recruitment guide for SMEs, private companies and multinational corporations in Zambia. And I hope you've really enjoyed this particular program. Please do follow Mr. Owen Kabanda on all his social media platforms, just for you to have, all those questions which you have. He will respond on all his social media platforms. We're talking about LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, just everywhere. Just search for Owen Kabanda and you will find him on all social media platforms. I have been your host, Patricia Chilambiko. From me and the entire production crew, it's goodbye and God bless.